episode of Consejos de Mis Coaches. My name is Maria, and I'm very happy to be here today with Donna Lopez Martinez. Our episode today is going to be about pursuing a graduate program as a first-generation student. And I'm super excited to actually be hosting this episode because I am actually looking into graduate degree programs right now. So not only is this going to be super informational for our students, but also for me as well. So I have a few questions I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
And I'll go over the first one now, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so going from your bachelor's degree program to your current doctoral program, could you give us some insight on what your educational path looked like?
Well, when I graduated from my bachelor's, I knew right away I wanted my master's. I relocated to the University of San Antonio, but San Antonio specifically because I wanted to work for ACU, which is the Hispanic Association for Colleges and Universities. I had studied public relations as my undergrad at NAU, and I thought that that's the route I wanted to go, but working for ACU, working higher education, incorporating that with my PR experience, and so I was going into public administration. I attended UTSA. Mm-hmm. And I was really homesick. I just struggled academically to just catch on to the vibe. I was just so used to Arizona, Flagstaff, or Tucson, or the Phoenix area. So I only lasted there for a semester. And then I relocated. It took a couple of years before I started up again. And personal stuff started happening with my family. I had to relocate to Tucson. And by that time, I had just given up. So third time was a charm. When my son turned 5 years old, that was my promise to myself that no matter what was going on in life, I was going to go back again and finish. And third time was a charm. It took 3 years to finish my master's, but I completed it. It was, a go. And after that, I thought, I'm done. I'm done with school. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't. Yeah. Soon after, at that time, I was employed with Pima Community College, had my master's. I started working into federal government relations, and I got the vibe of wanting to do more, be more, and basically having a seat at the table where I could have better influence on change for the positive. And so I started looking into graduate or doctorate programs, and I was looking at the U of A. And so I had been meeting with a professor who would have been my advisor, but then my son, he's autistic, and so long story short, we had to relocate from Tucson to the Phoenix area for better schools for him. And I was in the fifth year working here when I decided I think it's time. I don't know exactly what I want to do with it, but I know that it's important to get it and to open those opportunities for me. And again, one agent of change, has a better impact than nothing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started looking into programs. I took a long time looking into programs, and finally I found one that seemed perfect for me with the amount of time, the time frame that it was going to take, and how much it was running, and the curriculum in itself. I just was like, this is my niche. This is it.
Yeah. And I think you're a really great example of, everybody's educational path is going to look different, For me personally, I wanted to pursue my master's degree when I finished my bachelor's, but COVID happened, and, it goes to show that you shouldn't stop.
Exactly.
For sure. But have a leniency as well with yourself. So yeah, thank you so much. So then my next question is something you kind of started to touch on. So what inspired you to look into and to pursue graduate programs? Being a first generation student specifically, how did your cultural background influence this decision?
I actually started looking into the doctoral program because actually, it was Dr. Felicia Ganther, who was our ABC for Student Affairs before she left. And she invited me to attend her defense. Mm-hmm. And so I was just motivated seeing her. And those closest to me when I used to work in Tucson also already had their doctorate programs, or they had already graduated. So, they say, surround yourself with people that, with like-minded minds and hearts, right? And so I thought if they could do it, why not me? Mm-hmm. And I had also just lost my dad. and I thought, I carrying the Martinez last name, and I wanted to make him proud, and to be the only person in my family on both sides to make it this far in education. I felt like I would be honoring my dad. So that's like kind of like the personal piece to it. The other piece is that now that I'm in the program and almost done, I realize again that social advocacy comes into play for me, where it boils down to social justice and serving as an advocate for my community, my people, for opening access, for opening doors for students to learn about the potential access and opportunity to go to college and whatever route that may look like for them. It's just about a change. And so it's just important to me because my family has been here for many generations. I think we were here even before it was the United States. But yet we never progressed as far as education, wealth, and generational, progress to a certain degree. And so I feel that I owe it to my family, and I want to make that impact.
Yeah, and I feel like as a first-generation student, a lot of us can definitely sympathize with you for sure about that sentiment of wanting to do it for your family, and to create that educational wealth and that generational wealth as well. And I do just want to say that you are one of my inspirations right now, very much so.
Thank you.
So I am very happy to work with you. So moving on to my next question, and you do kind of touch on this, what are some of the challenges you faced pursuing your graduate degrees as a first-generation student?
Yeah. Well, I will say, I have to give some more context in order to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Grade school, I always suffered through school. My mom would have me tested for learning disabilities, and they would say, she's lazy, she just likes to be social. And that just never got any better for me. I barely graduated from high school. I went to the community college thinking I was going to just get a certificate and become a secretary, or my parents used to say, get a job, at the county, city, or state with good benefits and you'll be good. But once I opened the door to education, I wanted more.
Yeah.
And so I didn't, it opened my mind, my heart, my purpose. And so, but I struggled in school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was at NAU that my mentor, who was one of the vice presidents for enrollment up there, Stella Gutierrez, got me tested for learning disabilities. And I had a learning disability in writing and reading. And so I was told at NAU, you need to change majors because PR is writing and reading. And I said, no, I don't care how long it takes me, I'm going to finish it. And so I finished my degree. And, so even with my master's, I struggled, but I learned, you learn techniques, you learn how to learn, and your self-discipline, between time management and all. It just goes to show, like, when you really want something, you make it happen for yourself, despite whatever barriers, right? And so what's interesting is that even now in my doctoral program, I would say about 6 months ago, I was diagnosed as having ADHD. I'm like, oh my God, no wonder, So it's like, now it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. Now that I see that I'm almost done, I'm like, oh, great, But it's also remorseful thinking, how, if I would have been diagnosed earlier with these, issues, how much better could my path have been for me?
Yeah.
And, it's neither here or there anymore, but the fact remains is that that's the path that I had to take. And that comes with, the struggle and, patting myself in the back saying, you go, girl, and if I can do it, oh my gosh, anybody else can do it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I definitely, like I said, you're a huge inspiration to me and everyone here at HSI Excellence.
Thank you.
So, yeah, of course. So this is something you actually kind of touched on, which is great. So what type of support systems have you found and relied on during your time as a graduate student, and how would you advise our students to find similar support systems?
Well, I will say that in doing some research for my dissertation, I came across some literature that talked about the Mexican culture and students pursuing education, and there was something that I resonated with when I just had an aha moment, was that higher education is very much a spiritual experience. And, and I was like, no kidding, there was a lot of prayers to get admitted into NAU. There was a lot of prayers about, helping me with a test, getting me home safely, or returning back to NAU after visiting Tucson, or just helping me to graduate, just help me with this. And a lot of prayers to the point that I am where I am now. So for me, and for certain individuals within the culture, it's relatable to that extent, or maybe it just goes out to the universe, positive energies, and giving that an influx of empowerment there. And so I resonated with that very much. But I also give a lot of credit to my husband, because if he wasn't as supportive as he is, and as flexible, I don't have to have like dinner at the table every night, or he understands, if the house is dirty because I'm focusing on reading, or I'm at upstairs in my office working on a paper, my dissertation, or what have you. It's a family sacrifice. And my son also, he's like, are you working or are you in school? He'll ask me before he comes into my office. And so definitely my family has felt the burden of it, but they also know how much I love the work that I do. They know how much I want to help students and work in higher education. And so there's a lot of support around that area. The other piece was my parents. My parents, who have always been my cheerleaders. They've seen me since I was little, the struggles I've had. And even to this day, my mom's like, I just, from where you started to where you are, I just can't believe it. So it's like a pinch me moment. But it's the family, my husband, my son, the flexibility that they've had, and the spirituality. But most importantly, I think too, is that I know I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. And so I recognize that, my dad had a limitation to how far he went in education, my grandfather, my grandparents overall, and their, grandparents. And so I never forget, and I never take that for granted. And so that's I take that very seriously, and very, meaningful to me as well. And so we although, it's you, perhaps getting that diploma, but in essence, it's like that whole family, like the Martinez name is behind it, So, yeah.
I definitely understand that. And it goes back to what you were mentioning earlier, is surrounding yourself with people that are going to be understanding of your educational, goals and things like that. For example, I think I recently, coming into this position, I've been surrounded by people that are in similar circumstances that understand me a lot better than, when I was in undergrad, for example. Being around first-generation students, I think, inspires you not only for yourself, to continue, but to create a path for the people that are around you, too.
Exactly.
So, yeah, thank you so much for that. And then just one final question. What are some final pieces of advice you would give a first-generation student that is looking into a graduate degree?
Keep at it. Don't stop. When you need help looking for a program that's suitable for you, ask for help. It's okay. Dr. Ostos, Felicia Ganther were tremendous help navigating me to where I needed to look and where I needed to be. It took a long time to make that decision, and another thing too, student loans, having to take out that amount. And so I knew that was going to be a sacrifice and an investment as well. And so there was a lot of sleepless nights, but I just don't stop. Once you find that program, it hits you and you realize, oh my gosh, this is it. And when I couldn't sleep at night thinking, just do it, Donna, just apply. That was it for me. And I would just advise that too, look for scholarships. I've always been adamant about looking for scholarships, or even or tuition reimbursement opportunities. And here at Maricopa, they offer that. So that's been a godsend. But if you have the itch, I would say just don't stop and just do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes, and I have been on the receiving end of this advice a lot in the past couple of months, and I can say that it is definitely getting into the mindset of you can do it. You can do it. If you've gotten this far, you've gotten your bachelor's, just imagine, what you can do beyond that.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you all took, a lot away from this super informational session that we had today. And if you ever do have any questions about anything like that, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to Donna.
For sure.
Remember that there are several support systems within HSI Excellence that are willing to help you. So thank you so much for watching today's episode.
Thank you. See you later.